Isla Nublar, Costa Rica, 2015. Moments before Jurassic World's catastrophic collapse. This is Paddock 11, better known as the containment facility for the most dangerous creature ever engineered by human hands. And inside those walls lived Indominus Rex, a hybrid dinosaur created not from fossil DNA, but from deliberate genetic manipulation combining over a dozen species. And when senior geneticist Dr. Henry Wu first proposed creating designer organisms, park executives assumed he meant more colorful attractions or docile herbivores. But Wu had far more ambitious plans. Plans that would ultimately result in 9 distinct hybrid species, each more dangerous than anything evolution had ever produced naturally. In this video, we're going inside the classified research program and genetic engineering timeline that transformed Jurassic Park from a resurrection project into a biological weapons laboratory, examining every hybrid species created across 3 decades of unregulated experimentation. When InGen first successfully cloned dinosaurs in the early 1990s using preserved DNA extracted from mosquitoes trapped in amber, the scientific achievement seemed miraculous enough. But Dr. Henry Wu, the lead geneticist responsible for filling gaps in degraded DNA sequences, quickly realized that the cloning process already required significant genetic manipulation. And if they were already modifying genomes to make extinct species viable in modern ecosystems, what prevented them from going further and creating entirely new organisms that had never existed in any prehistoric era? His first hybrid organism appeared in 1997, years before Jurassic World opened, when Wu successfully combined DNA from multiple plant species to create Caricosis wutanus, commonly known as the Wu flower, a bioluminescent plant that served as proof of concept that cross-species genetic engineering could produce stable, viable organisms. And this botanical experiment, barely documented in official records, became the template for far more ambitious projects that would follow over the next 2 decades. What park visitors never knew was that behind Jurassic World's family-friendly facade, Wu operated an entire shadow research program funded by private military contractors and pharmaceutical companies, creating hybrid species designed not for entertainment, but for potential weapons applications, surveillance capabilities, and biological warfare scenarios. And between 2009 and 2016, at least 9 distinct hybrid species were engineered, tested, and in some cases, deployed, with consequences that would ultimately lead to the island's complete evacuation. Wu's first true dinosaur hybrid emerged around 2009 under the designation E750, later known as Scorpius Rex, created by combining DNA from Carnotaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Velociraptor, tree frog, scorpionfish, and snake, resulting in a creature that possessed strength comparable to large theropods, speed rivaling raptors, and most terrifyingly, the ability to reproduce asexually without requiring a mate, along with venomous quills that could be fired from its body and infrared vision that allowed hunting in complete darkness. However, the creature proved so genetically unstable and behaviorally unpredictable that Wu ordered it terminated. But rather than destroying it completely, he placed it in cryogenic suspension in a forgotten sector of the facility. And years later, when Jurassic World collapsed and power systems failed, this frozen specimen thawed, escaped containment, and immediately began reproducing, ultimately creating at least 2 individuals that terrorized the abandoned island before killing each other in territorial combat within the ruins of the original visitor center. During this same experimental period, Wu created several other hybrid species that never reached public display, including Stegoceratops, a fusion of Stegosaurus and Triceratops genetics enhanced with beetle and snake DNA that created a heavily armored quadruped with both dorsal plates and facial horns, as well as an unnamed Therizinosaurus hybrid incorporating sauropod spikes and the inflatable throat pouch of a frigate bird, and a Pachycephalosaurus hybrid modified with sauropod, cuttlefish, and tree frog DNA, all of which remained in developmental stages and appeared only as embryonic specimens visible in background laboratory shots. In 2012, Wu received authorization and unlimited funding to create what would become Jurassic World's flagship attraction, designated Indominus Rex, engineered primarily from Tyrannosaurus Rex genetics, but augmented with DNA from over a dozen species, including Velociraptor for intelligence, Giganotosaurus for size, Carnotaurus and Majungasaurus for additional predatory features, Rugops and Deinosuchus for enhanced jaw strength, Therizinosaurus for massive claws, Cuttlefish for chromatophore-based camouflage, Tree Frog for thermal regulation, and Viper for infrared sensing capabilities. 2 specimens were hatched, but the dominant individual immediately killed and partially consumed its sibling, demonstrating problematic levels of aggression that Wu's team attributed to social isolation rather than fundamental design flaws. And when the surviving Indominus Rex reached subadult size in 2015, it escaped containment using camouflage abilities and thermal masking that security systems couldn't detect, subsequently killing 19 visitors and staff before being destroyed through combined efforts of the park's Tyrannosaurus, a Velociraptor pack, and ultimately the lagoon's Mosasaurus. Following the Isla Nublar incident, Wu relocated operations to Lockwood Manor in Northern California, where he developed Indoraptor, specifically designed as a weapons platform rather than a park attraction, created by combining Indominus Rex genetics with additional Velociraptor DNA to produce a smaller, more agile predator, measuring only 7 meters long, but capable of operating in enclosed environments and responding to laser targeting systems that allowed handlers to designate specific kill targets, effectively transforming the creature into a living, precision-guided weapon. However, the prototype exhibited severe behavioral abnormalities, including apparent sadism, as it would injure prey without killing them immediately, simply to prolong suffering. And unlike velociraptors, which demonstrated pack bonding and limited empathy, Indoraptor showed no capacity for social connection and killed indiscriminately, regardless of whether targets posed threats. And during the 2018 Lockwood incident, it was ultimately destroyed when Blue, a velociraptor with normal social development, drove it through a glass ceiling, where it fell onto the pointed horns of a Triceratops fossil. Beyond the well-documented Indominus and Indoraptor programs, at least 3 additional hybrid species were created at remote facilities and subsequently lost when those sites were abandoned, including Mutadon, developed at a research station on Île Saint-Hubert by combining Velociraptor and Pteranodon genetics to produce a creature capable of both terrestrial hunting and limited flight, with some individuals exhibiting developmental abnormalities, including dual heads, where both raptor and pterosaur skull structures emerged from a single body. When the Saint-Hubert facility lost funding and was evacuated in the late 1990s, several Mutadon specimens were simply abandoned rather than destroyed. And over the subsequent 17 years, these hybrids established themselves as apex predators in the island's ecosystem, developing pack hunting strategies that combined aerial surveillance with ground-based ambush tactics, demonstrating that hybrid species, despite their engineered origins, could adapt to wild environments just as effectively as naturally evolved organisms. Perhaps the most disturbing hybrid ever created was Distortus Rex, designated D-Rex, an experimental Tyrannosaurus variant featuring 6 limbs arranged in a configuration that produced gorilla-like quadrupedal locomotion, a grotesquely malformed skull with asymmetrical jaw structures, and body mass nearly double that of normal Tyrannosaurus specimens, though intelligence tests showed cognitive capabilities significantly below baseline theropod levels. And this creature's creation appears to have been purely experimental, with no clear commercial or military application, suggesting Wu may have been conducting genetic manipulation simply to test the absolute limits of what dinosaur DNA could be forced to produce. And so we come to understand that the Jurassic Park saga represents not merely a cautionary tale about resurrecting extinct species, but rather a far darker warning about unrestricted genetic engineering. Because the 9 hybrid organisms created across InGen's research programs demonstrate how quickly scientific capability can outpace ethical oversight, transforming a project initially intended to
educate and inspire into a biological weapons development program that threatened entire ecosystems and human populations. And while most of these hybrids were destroyed or contained, their existence proves that the technology to create designer organisms already exists, waiting only for the next scientist to decide that nature's rules are merely suggestions to be rewritten. But these 9 hybrids may not represent the complete picture, because recently declassified documents reference additional genetic experiments conducted at Manticorp's secret facility, where automated systems continued breeding and modifying hybrid species long after human oversight ended. And among these projects were rumors of hybrid species combining dinosaur genetics with modern predators, including crocodiles, Komodo dragons, and even large cats, creating organisms that blurred the line between extinct and extant species in ways that make even Indominus Rex seem conservative by comparison, proving that, despite multiple catastrophic failures, the temptation to play genetic architect remains irresistible to those with the capability. But while Jurassic Park's hybrids were designed in laboratories to be ultimate predators, nature has already spent millions of years engineering defensive systems that can defeat even apex hunters. If you want to see how a 30-pound rodent can kill a 200-pound Komodo dragon, check out our Komodo dragon versus porcupine video, where evolution's weapons prove deadlier than anything science can design. Click the link now to watch.